Every day, 158 million Americans wake up and go to work. Of that 158 million people, 135 million will still be working by their 60th birthday. But it doesn't have to be that way. In fact, this reality is actually very confusing to me for a number of reasons. And just take me, for example. By working one job with zero side hustles, I still plan on reaching financial freedom when I'm 29 years old. That's an 8-year career, 5 times less than the national average. I get asked how I plan to retire so early all of the time, but I think a better question is why do 90% of people plan to work into their 60s? Well, I think the answer has to do with the myth of retirement age. Of course, there is a technical definition for retirement age. For Americans born after 1960, you reach what is called full retirement age on your 67th birthday. But even this definition of retirement age is a little fuzzy. You could declare yourself retired at 62 years old if you're willing to accept a lower Social Security payout. But if you delayed your retirement declaration, you could get even higher payouts, at least until you turn 70 years old. So from the government's point of view, all that matters is that you're between 62 and 70 years old. And what I think is most important is that it doesn't actually matter if you're retired or not. You could have retired at 25 years old, or you could be planning to work until you're 90. To the government, it doesn't matter. So instead of retirement age, this arbitrary age range of 62 to 70 years old is really just the age that you can claim your government benefits. So where did this myth of retirement age actually come from? Well, to see, we need to go back in time. Historically, you weren't always promised government benefits. It wasn't until 1935, as America suffered from the Great Depression, that the Social Security Act was signed into law. There have been many changes to Social Security in the 90 years since it was signed, but two things have remained pretty consistent. One is the retirement age, which has only budged from 65 to 67. The other is that Social Security was never meant to replace income. Work in the 1930s didn't look like what it does now. There weren't nearly as many desk jobs. A much larger percentage of the workforce was involved in farming or other labor-intensive work. That meant a worker's productivity would drop as they aged, and many more people actually had to retire in their early 60s. And on top of that, life expectancy was much lower. So, Social Security was meant as a safety net to provide a little income for those that couldn't work in their final years. The expectations of a comfortable 30-year retirement spent on a golf course just weren't as likely. Either way, Social Security was never designed to fully enable retirement. Instead, I think a completely different force is responsible for our myth of retirement age. 40 years ago, there would be a high chance that eventually you'd have a job that offered a pension. That's important because, unlike the popular retirement accounts of today, pensions had a guaranteed benefit. If you worked a certain number of years for a company, you'd be guaranteed a certain percentage of your income. While these are still somewhat popular in the public sector, in the private sector, they've decreased dramatically. Since 1980, the number of private sector workers covered by a pension has been cut in half. So, even though these pensions weren't tied to a specific retirement age, it still made sense that a lot of people would retire at around the same age. But this has changed. Pensions have largely been replaced with 401k plans, which put a lot more responsibility onto the individual employee. It's up to you how much to contribute and what to invest in. What that means is there could be a tremendous difference in how much wealth you build up over your career. So, why are 90% of people still planning to retire at the same time? That makes no sense. When I first discovered the financial independence retire early community, this was one of the biggest light bulb moments for me. It makes no sense that somebody earning $150,000 a year should retire at the same age as somebody earning $30,000 a year. Now, I've explained before that the only thing that matters for calculating your retirement date is your savings rate, which is how much of your income you actually save. So having a higher income doesn't necessarily mean that you can retire faster. That said, I had college classmates going to Silicon Valley after college, and they were earning $120,000 to $140,000 a year. That kind of money should absolutely enable a higher savings rate. At least it would, as long as savings rate is their priority, instead of the $15 croissants that I actually see them post on their Instagram story. Financial freedom is powered by simple math, which is why it always surprises me and how few people think that it's possible. The myth of retirement age has convinced people that a 40-year career is the only option. But it isn't. Of course, reaching retirement age, as defined by the government, does have some benefits. I could start drawing Social Security, and I could also have full access to my retirement accounts. Fingers crossed that by that time, that will be a lot of money. But while these are real benefits, these are actually less important to me than you might think. Let's talk about them. First up is Social Security, which is the benefit most associated with retirement age. But here's the thing, I'm not betting my retirement on the government's management. According to the Social Security Administration itself, the money reserved to make Social Security payments is expected to run out in just 15 years. Even if the necessary changes are made to extend that pot of money, I plan on having all of the money I need well before I turn 62 years old, which right now is the minimum age for collecting Social Security. A more important factor is related to my retirement accounts. Right now, I'm maxing out my employer-provided 401k because I get a good company match and I appreciate the tax benefits. But there's just one problem. In return for those tax benefits, the government imposes a hefty penalty on early withdrawals. So while I might have all of the money I need, I might not be able to withdraw it until my 60s. To me, this is the most annoying part of the myth of retirement age. Even though I could have all of the money I need to retire, the government won't let me have my money. Even so, this shouldn't be a deal breaker. Using a Roth laddering approach, I should still be able to withdraw at least my contributions, as long as I'm willing to wait a few years. And hopefully I'll have more than enough money to retire early at 30, even without access to my retirement accounts. One thing that would make that more likely is if you smash the like button, hit subscribe, and share this video with your friends and family. So don't let the myth of retirement age fool you. When you really dig into it, retirement age is just an arbitrary number that the government decided on 90 years ago. Maybe it made sense back then, but as individual workers have become more and more responsible for their own retirement savings, you should also become more and more responsible for your own retirement age. So if you don't want to wait until you're 67 years old, you don't have to. Just because 90% of people wait until their 60s to retire doesn't mean that it's the only option. Of course, I'm trying to speed up that process by a lot, and that's why I recently made a video explaining my step-by-step plan for reaching financial freedom at 29 years old. You can find that video right here. In that video, I go over how much I earn, how much I save, and my investment projections. If you want to be part of the 10% that retires before 60, that video is for you.